and right before their eyes was a glimmering, mouth-watering roasted chicken. Well, it's ready now. Without missing a beat, Sai and Khan cheered. Ooh, ooh. Meanwhile, as the two kids dug into their feast, Balo didn't forget to share food with Luis. Young Master Luis, you should join in, too. Luis took the roasted chicken from Balo, giving a nod. Yeah. After taking a bite and ignoring the bits stuck on his face, Luis suddenly exclaimed, "Oh!" He turned to face Balo, showering him with some praise. "This is really delicious. The seasoning is just perfect." His compliment made Balo blush a bit. He scratched his head and chuckled. "Haha, you flatter me too much." Luis licked his fingers. Then with a serious tone, asked, "Now back to what we were saying. You mentioned that the dragon spotted on the mountain is named Kaoa." Balo replied respectfully, "Yes, sir. I heard this from a hunter in the city we just traveled through. About 20 years ago, a beast appeared in his village, and folks thought it was a dragon. Suddenly, Fukuduang zoomed straight into Balo's face, causing him to yelp in pain. Ouch! Luis's face flushed with anger. He pointed at Balo and shouted, "A dragon? What are you saying? Anyone overhearing you might think you're tight with that dragon species," Balo stammered, trying to clarify. "Oh, no, sir. About that." Luis came down hard on Balo's foot and roared, "What is it? A monster? Huh. Let me show you what a real monster looks like." "Huh." Balo, wincing in pain, kept apologizing. I'm sorry." Balo's words only seemed to make Luis even angrier. His expression turned fierce, eyes blazing as he defiantly pointed at him. "You think you can stand on my level? Say it right this time." Balo, tears welling in his eyes, quickly corrected himself. "Yes, sir." According to the old hunter, 20 years back in his village, folks witnessed a majestic presence. They believed it was the Dragon Lord, a colossal dragon with blood-red eyes, towering like a mountain, was part of Balo's tale. It was as big as a building, and its roar was thunderous. The villagers were absolutely terrified. Luis let out a sigh, his tone less harsh now. With just that much info, it sounds pretty fishy. Haven't there been only wild rumors for the past few weeks?" After Luis spoke, Balo suddenly remembered something and added, "Oh, that's right. There's more to it. I heard the nobles from the neighboring region sent a ton of soldiers to investigate. They even hired mercenaries who are experts at tackling giant monsters." Kenyon and Khan sat quietly by the fire, soaking in the conversation, curious after hearing Balo's tale. Luis asked, "Oh, so what happened then?" Balo looked at him, saying hesitantly, "Well, there's been no word from the dispatched army." A heavy gloom settled over the land. Only blood-soaked swords were left behind. Everyone speculates they were all wiped out. Then, people started disappearing on Mount Kajo, so now, no one dares to go near that mountain anymore. Luis fell deep into thought, stroking his chin. After a creature thought to be a dragon showed up, the dispatched army vanished as well. Luis's lips curled into a pleased grin as he mused, "This is getting really thrilling. Now, this." Suddenly, Kaya popped into his mind. That mountain is also to the west, so it shouldn't hinder our journey. With the intel Balo collected, there must be something significant there. His thoughts kept racing. Luiso was eager to dig deeper into this situation. If it's not a dragon, but some other beast capable of facing a huge army, it would be like stepping into a lion's den. Is this risk really worth it? Luiso's attention was snatched away. He glanced around. Observing his odd behavior, Balo inquired, "Sir, what's going on?" Without turning his gaze, Luiso focused elsewhere and said, "Something approaches." Balo's large frame made his weapon seem like a toy. He shot a serious look at Luiso and asked, "Is it a monster?" Luiso remained calm, casually responding with his hand resting on his hip. "Nah, it's just a person. Looks like he's alone with his weapon," Balo boldly declared. "Leave it to me. Sir, I'll take care of him." He yelled into the dark woods ahead. "Identify yourself. Show yourself." There was silence, just a dim and eerie space. Thinking nobody was around, suddenly, a voice pierced through, grabbing Balo and Luiso's attention. "No need to be so defensive." From the shadows of the forest emerged a figure draped in a cloak that added to their enigma. Balo and Luis so silently studied the newcomer, realizing they were being watched. The figure removed their hood and bowed, presenting themselves with a friendly smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Chugan. I was just passing through and saw the light of your fire." Luis stared at Chugan, musing. "Chugan? Why does that name ring a bell? I'm pretty sure I've heard that name before." Chugan grinned, keeping his demeanor friendly. "If it's all right, may I warm myself by your fire for a moment?" Balo quickly shook his head, saying, "I'm sorry, but there are kids around." He directed his gaze at Kan and Khan, who were quietly sitting at the fire. Chugan nodded and replied, "It's completely understandable to be cautious with strangers. I get it." He smiled and scratched his head, showing no intent to overstay. "Apologies for the disruption. Then, I'll be on my way." Pleased with himself, Ballo turned to Luis. "I've sent him off. Young Master Luis." However, Luis didn't respond immediately. He was too caught up in that name, muttering to himself, "Chugan." After a moment of realization struck, he suddenly shouted, "Chugan!" Luis whirled around and ordered Ballo, who stood behind him, "Bring that guy back here immediately." Ballo looked perplexed, asking hesitantly, "Huh? Why the sudden change?" Luis fumed, stomping his foot as he yelled, "Quit asking questions. Just go, fetch him." Seeing Luis get riled up again, Ballo quickly ran off, but still replied, "I'm on it." Luis's eyes bore straight ahead, his brain churning with possibilities. "If he's the Chugan, I suspect, I need to keep him here," Luis thought, recalling the story. "He's a brilliant fighter known as the Summoner of the Royal Beast, Javaner the Bright-Eyed Tiger, and will eventually be one of the warriors who defeats my father. He is that very Chugan, and if he's indeed Javar's future master, I can't just let him slip away." While Luis was deep in thought, Ballo had already returned with Chugan. He hesitantly explained, Well, I thought you seemed like a decent person, so you can hang out for a while." Chugan's expression remained warm and friendly. He responded gratefully, "Thank you so much, you've truly saved my life." While Luis watched him intensely, he asked, "What's the matter, kid? Is there something on my face?" Luisa's vibrant purple eyes sparkled with confidence as he looked at Chugan, unreservedly asking, "You must be incredibly strong, right?" Chugan's smile broadened, his face revealing no hint of doubt. He elaborated, "Haha, at the moment, I'm on my own, but I'm never really alone." Kay and Luis exchanged confused glances. They couldn't grasp Chugan's meaning and wondered, "What is he talking about?" Luis, feeling impatient, inquired, "What do you mean by that?" Chugan rubbed his chin, pleased to spark their curiosity. "You're intrigued, aren't you?" Without waiting for a response, he quickly began to play a melody, conjuring a small stream of energy that surrounded him. Luis watched closely, mentally assessing the situation. It's a mental-type attribute, and while it may not be strong, it definitely contains mental energy. Ballo looked around, surprised, and asked blankly, "Huh? What's that noise?" Suddenly, panic washed over his face. He exclaimed, That's a massive bird with sharp eyes coming this way. A six-winged blood eagle." The six-winged blood eagle swiftly descended, its enormous talons leaving marks in the pure white snow. Luisa's group, standing before this mighty creature, suddenly felt extremely small. It flapped its wings forcefully, letting out a loud cry as if unleashing a surge of energy. Startled, Ballo quickly reached for his weapon. Assuming a combat position, he let out a loud shout to rally his strength when a hand rested on his shoulder. He halted, turning to find a familiar face. Chu smiled, hand still on his shoulder, reassuring him. "It's all good." Ballo looked skeptical, questioning, "Huh?" But the azure-winged beast stood majestically to one side. Regardless of their conversation, "I'm the one who summoned it, and its name is Ming." "What?" Ballo remained unconvinced, eyeing the creature warily, and said, "But isn't that an azure-winged beast? Once it matures, it will become a fierce monster battling against WNS. How can that beast be here?" Chu affectionately patted Ming's head. The bird seemed to bask in the attention. "I've raised this little one since it was just a chick. It's super loyal to me, so it's totally harmless." After hearing Chu's assurance, Ballo still wanted to be sure and asked, "Are you a druid?" Chugan shyly scratched his head, replying as Ming looked at him wide-eyed. "Yes, that's true, but I still have lots of room for improvement." Luis had remained quiet up until now, secretly wondering, "A druid named Chugan?" He observed Chu playing with Ming, thinking, "Haha, that tickles." In his mind, Luis still couldn't decide if this guy was genuinely the ancestor of the Viner family. To test his suspicion, he asked, "Mr. Chugan, are you married?" Chu's face showed surprise, and he stuttered a denial. "Huh? Married? I'm not married yet." Luis's hair stood on end in the cool night air. He asked clearly and calmly, "So, do you happen to have any brothers? Older sisters? Or younger sisters? Or maybe some cousins sharing the Chugan surname?" Chugan calmly addressed each of Luiso's inquiries without a hint of irritation. "Well, I'm an only child, and the only folks with the Chugan surname are my dad and me." After getting the answer he sought, Luiso's eyes lit up like stars, his face breaking into a triumphant grin. "This is it. My father's nemesis. But that's something for later." Chugan began to turn the tables and asked questions of his own. He leaned down to look at Louis So and said, "But why the sudden interest?" Louis So simply chuckled and scratched his head, as if it was no big deal. "I was just curious." Chugan was completely astounded by Louis So's demeanor. Just a moment ago, he seemed like an innocent little kid, but once he turned away, he morphed into someone sinister with daring ideas. Maybe killing him is too extreme, or maybe I should ensure he can't reproduce, so he never gets to see his own kids. A shiver ran down Chugan's spine. Hugging himself tight, trembling slightly, he exclaimed, "Brr, why do I suddenly feel chills?" At this point, Balo had let go of any bias against Chuan. He talked to him in a friendly way. "If you're cold, come over and warm yourself by the fire." Chugan gladly accepted. He smiled and expressed his gratitude. "Oh, yes, thank you so much." Seemingly noticing something, Chu huffed. It turned out, the two kids, Kay and Khan, were rushing toward Ming with pure excitement, exclaiming, "Wow, that bird is enormous. This is the biggest bird I've ever seen." Chugan called out in concern. "Hey!" Panic washed over his face as he tried to rush toward Kay and Khan. "Kay, don't get too close. If anyone other than its owner approaches carelessly, it will." But by then, Kay and Khan were already frolicking carefree near Ming. Khan had hopped onto its back while Kay hugged Ming on the ground. "Whoa. Feel its feathers, they're so soft. Just like a cozy blanket." Witnessing this scene, Chugan was stunned, disbelief sneaking into his words. "That's risky." Louis strode over to pull Sai and Khan back, continuously scolding the two kids. "Hey, you two. You can't just go touching other people's pets whenever you feel like it." As Sai and Khan were yanked back, their expressions shifted from excitement to disappointment. Suddenly, Mingyu fixed its gaze on Louis, making him exclaim in surprise, "Huh?" A dark, ominous shadow soon loomed over Louis from behind. Perhaps sensing this, Mingyu lost its composure. It flapped its wings in a frenzy, squawking loudly. "Squawk! Squawk!" Chugan yelled anxiously. "Hey, that's dangerous." Unexpectedly, Mingyu flipped onto its back, raising both claws up. While maintaining that same disinterested expression, it surprisingly flipped over just for Louis to scratch its belly, even making little chirps to show it was really enjoying it. This display from Mingyu left Chugan at a loss for words. Louis, beaming with affection, said, "Good boy, good boy." Chugan felt an intense wave of jealousy, his voice dripping with resentment. "Mingyu, you never act like that with me." Sai and Khan comfortably settled on Mingyu's belly, declaring joyfully, "It's so warm and soft. Tonight I'm definitely sleeping with it." Chugan's mood swung wildly as he saw his bird remain calm while others stroked its head or even climbed onto it. Turning to Balo, he inquired, "What kind of powerhouse are those kids anyway?" Balo found himself at a loss for words, stumbling over his words. Well, about that." As stars dotted the night sky, an eerie silence enveloped them. This silence made the next statement ring out louder. "They are my grandchildren." As the sun slowly emerged from behind the snow-capped mountain, a brand new day dawned. Balo was busy organizing their belongings on the carriage. Just then, Chugan emerged from behind, bowing slightly, in gratitude. "Thank you for allowing me to stay the night and for traveling together with me. I'm not sure how I'll repay your kindness." Balo recalled the murderous look on Louis' face when he insisted they take him along at all costs. He could only chuckle dryly and respond, "Haha, we're headed the same way anyway. It's best to journey together, right?" Mingyu quietly rubbed its head, indifferent to the conversations surrounding it. "But what about that summoned beast?" "Oh, no worries about Mingyu. It knows how to stick with me." Louis called out, leaning from the carriage. "Uncle, it's time to roll." Balo quickly replied, still adjusting to the formal address. "Yes. Let's get moving." With a loud flap, Mingyu stretched its immense wings and took to the sky. Balo clambered up onto the carriage, shouting, "Let's hit the road." The path ahead remained blanketed in white snow, and they glided forward smoothly. Inside the carriage, a heavy silence hung until Louis broke it first. "So, where are you off to, mister?" Chugan replied openly. "Me? I'm bound for Mount C down south." Louis fell silent momentarily before asking, "What's drawing you to that mountain?" Chugan chuckled. "Huh. That mountain?" He paused briefly as excitement lit up his face. With enthusiasm, he declared, "There's something there that could turn my dream into reality." Louis stared at Chugan, puzzled by his odd declaration, thinking, something that grants wishes at that mountain? As if the topic sparked his enthusiasm, Chugan heightened his excitement, trembling with glee. "If you want to hear my dream," his voice rose with confidence, "it's to tame a dragon." Haha. Louis's expression soured at this response, and Balo noted something was off. But Chugan pressed on, passionate as ever. Dragons are the mightiest beings in existence. You could say that capturing a dragon is the ultimate aspiration for all druids. When the word dragon slipped from Chugan's lips, Louis' demeanor shifted dramatically, a murderous intent radiating from him. Yet Chugan remained oblivious, chatting away. If I can manage to tame a dragon, I won't fear anything ever again. The great and wise dragon. Sensing tension rising, Balo interjected quickly. Haha. This kid is something else. Chasing such a dangerous and unrealistic dream. If you continue this way, it'll really lead you to your doom. Chugan chuckled, his eyes crinkling in laughter. That's exactly why it's a dream. Just wait and see. Luis was nearly at his breaking point, but Chugan couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. Someday, I'll catch a dragon with my bare hands. Luis felt his patience fray and thought, perhaps it's time I dealt with him right now. Luis sighed, his mind wandering off. I don't know what lurks on Mount Kyoa, but I bet it's not a dragon. Ignoring Chugan's chatter, Luis began to seriously ponder. If there was truly a dragon on that mountain, there's no way it would allow this fool to live and be tamed. If that were true, Javar wouldn't have even existed. Luis shifted his focus, no longer glancing at Chugan. Perhaps the creature on Mount Kyoa is something entirely different. As he contemplated this, a vision of a stunning white tiger flashed through his mind. It's probably a fierce tiger. If Chugan actually manages to tame that fierce tiger on Mount Kyoa, it would grow stronger over generations, eventually becoming the fierce companion of Javar. This thought darkened Luis's expression. But I can't allow that to come to pass. I need to take action first. Luis clapped his hands, fixing his gaze on Chugan with a voice brimming with mock admiration. Chugan, what a magnificent dream you have. Chugan, oblivious to the insincerity, bashfully scratched his head and replied, haha, thanks, kid. Balo quietly absorbed Luis's words to Chugan. I hope your dream comes true. Chugan seemed convinced of Luis's sincerity. Balo quietly listened to Luis's words for Chugan. I hope you fulfill that dream of yours. It seemed Chugan genuinely believed Louis was being sincere, responding cheerfully. Yeah. In the future, I'm definitely taking you with me. Balo, knowing Luis well, could only shake his head and sigh, thinking, you poor kid. Knowing Luis well, Balo could only shake his head and sigh, thinking, oh, you poor kid. Balo sighed internally, wishing, may you find peace, despite everyone getting lost in their own minds. The carriage pressed onward, on a snow-covered road beneath a clear blue sky surrounded by majestic mountains. It heralded the arrival of a beautiful day. Chugan stretched his arms, feeling invigorated, and let out a lazy noise. Before him stood the grand, snow-laden Mount Kyoa. Chugan scanned the scenery and exclaimed, what a perfect morning to encounter a dragon. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him, startling Chugan as he turned to see who it was. It was Luis, still groggy and stumbling out of the carriage. What a lovely morning. It could even wake a dragon from its slumber. Chugan couldn't help but chuckle at Luis's cute days, bending down to ask, did you sleep well? Looks like you had an amazing morning. Chugan gazed at Luis's adorable face and couldn't help but smile, bending down to ask, did you sleep well? You look like you had a fantastic morning. Luis quickly replied, yes, but have you seen the twins? His suspicion piqued as he noted the twins were missing. The twins? You haven't seen them? Weren't they with me in the carriage? Bao, also stirred by the conversation, appeared before them, yawning and greeting them in a sleepy manner. Good morning. Luis persisted with his earlier inquiry to Chugan. Have you seen the twins? Just like Chugan, Bao was completely clueless about Connie and Khan's absence, replying with a puzzled expression. No, I haven't seen them. I don't think so. Luis felt annoyed, his eyes scanning for the two pesky missing kids. He let out a groan. Where could those kids have slipped off to so early? Please don't tell me they're causing trouble. Out from behind the carriage, Phi dashed in, swiftly updating his young master. Young master Luis So. I've located the twins. Luis So turned his attention to Phi. Ears perked up. Oh. Really? Where are they hiding? Phi's face showed clear worry as he hesitated, struggling to answer Luis So with a tight-lipped smile. Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out, calling for Luis So. Cutting through the noise around him, he shot a curious glance toward the source of the shout, eyebrows raised. There was bubbly Connie, tightly hugging the leg of an enormous white tiger, while Khan proudly gripped its other leg. The twins were gleefully dragging the bewildered creature through the snowy blanket, shouting to Luis So, look, we found a cat. Since when do cats look like this? Khan immediately retorted, this here is a dog. Luis So's expression was priceless and exasperated. Thinking to himself, it's neither a cat nor a dog. Chugan stared, utterly flabbergasted, stammering, no way. This can't be happening. Before them lay the majestic white tiger, now too weary to stand. A fierce tiger. With a heavy thud, the tiger crumpled to the ground as Kenny and Khan plopped it down onto the snowy white surface, making Louise So recoil in fright. Connie and Khan quickly approached Louise So, their faces adorably pleading. "Look how cute he is. Can we keep him?" "Please," Khan quickly chimed in, making a cute, pleading expression. "He's so adorable. Can we keep him, pretty please?" Khan chimed in eagerly. "We'll care for him so well. I swear." Louise So hesitated, reluctant to allow the twins to keep the white tiger, finally asking, "But where on earth did you two stumble upon it?" The twins exchanged smug glances at Louise So's question. Connie pointed towards the mountain, exclaiming, "From that mountain over there." Khan puffed out his chest with pride as he declared, "He came over to play with us. So, we had fun together." The more Louise So listened, the more drained he felt, unsure of how to deal with the bizarre situation. True, he had been on the lookout for a fierce tiger, but this was not how he expected to find one. Chugun's surprise morphed quickly into curiosity as he approached the bewildered beast for a closer look. A fierce tiger? They still lurk in this world? Before he could even reach out, bewildered by the creature's presence. A fierce tiger? They still roam this world? Before he could even reach out to it, Kenny and Khan zipped in front of the tiger, puffing out their cheeks and glaring at Shugon. "No way, this is our Nabi. Hands off." He hadn't even wrapped his head around the scene yet. "No way, this is our Nabi. Hands off Nabi." He hadn't even grasped the situation yet. But seeing the kids defend their newfound friend, he relented and took a step back. "Huh? Nabi?" Louis So couldn't comprehend the twins' naming convention. They even decided to give it a new name. Suddenly, Louis So noticed something odd about Nabi. "Huh?" The fierce tiger was sneakily peeking with one eye, evaluating the ruckus. It was pretending. Just then, it spotted someone far off who was also watching it. Their eyes locked. Nabi was taken aback. As Louis So studied the creature pensively, it noticed someone in the distance, also observing it. Their gazes locked. Nabi was startled. Meanwhile, as Louis So contemplated, it resembled a tiger trapped in a cage. Louis So leaned down with an impish grin, and Nabi squeezed its eyes shut tight, its tongue flopping out as its body quivered ever so slightly. He asked playfully, "Oh, you're awake, aren't you? Your eyelids are dancing." Leaning even closer, he adopted a devilish tone. "Aren't you? Your eyelids are twitching." He adopted a more sinister tone, leaning in closer to its head. It couldn't shake the fear coursing through it, its breathing becoming increasingly rapid. "Why's your breathing getting so heavy? Are you seriously unconscious?" It realized it couldn't keep pretending. The fierce tiger sprang awake and unleashed a loud roar, trying to strike fear. Luis witnessed the tiger's roar ignite excitement in Chu and Khan, who cheered with glee. "Nubbies are awake!" Luis So stepped back, astonished at how wild it had become, his irritation bubbling beneath the surface. "This darn tiger," annoyed. He casually swung a punch at the tiger's face, asserting his dominance with anger. "Who do you think you're roaring at?" The tiger took the full brunt of the punch and collapsed once more. Nabi flailed in the snow, clutching its head painfully, rolling back and forth like a child throwing a fit, whining at Louis So. CK. Watching this, Louis So had no words left, crossing his arms and letting out a deep sigh. Chu's eyes widened in disbelief, jumping from one shock to another, unable to fathom it. He laughed awkwardly, scratching his head at the thought of knocking out a fierce tiger with one hit, unsure how Thon Min would react around Chugan, whose face was twisted in confusion, unsure how to show any emotion. "Haha, my grandkids have no clue about fear." The twins, however, were concerned for the fierce tiger. The two children edged closer to the animal, cooing, "Our Nabi is in so much pain, right? Let me blow on it for you." Balo found himself at a loss, left in silence with nothing more to say. Meanwhile, Chu fired questions at him immediately. "No fear? Chasing after a fierce tiger? Really? Huh?" Luis So suddenly fell silent, lost in thought about the creature in front of him. Even though it was fierce, it was just a cub without its mother. Isn't this a bit odd? The more he pondered, the more unsettled he felt. After a moment of contemplation, Luis So had a sudden realization. Glancing over his shoulder, a powerful force surged toward him, sending a chill of impending danger. What? What is this intense energy? Could it possibly be the mother tiger? Balo and Chugan also sensed something was off and quickly turned, their eyes widening in shock, just like Luis So. Witnessing the scene before them, the ancient trees trembled and the birds took to the sky in a hurry. A booming sound grew louder, echoing in front of the bewildered group. What in the world is that noise? A beast with dark green scales and long claws was slowly crunching the broken branches underfoot as it moved closer. An ancient centipede with a massive body, wicked eyes, and green scales searched for something as it advanced. Chuan quickly fell into a panic. Too many things had occurred that day, leaving him feeling overwhelmed and shaking. Oh my goodness, that is... Before he could finish his thought, Luiso rushed in and covered Chugan's mouth firmly, stopping his rising panic. Shh! Stay quiet. Once Chugan settled down, Luiso swiftly activated his formation. A purple barrier began to rise, gradually surrounding them. If we move now, we'll draw its attention. We need to hide first. A purple barrier enveloped the whole team, conjured by Luiso. The magical formation was clear and translucent. Luiso stood with arms wide, sweat trickling down his forehead as he concentrated on maintaining the formation and strategizing. Beyond the formation, all that remained was a vast white snowy plain, bringing back that peaceful silence that lingered before the team's arrival. And so, the team made their entrance. Chugan's eyes bulged with astonishment as he took in the magical setup that Luis had conjured. Endlessly awestruck by such a rare sight on this planet. Goodness gracious. Could this be divine spatial sorcery? In an instant, a colossal spatial barrier sprang forth. Chugan peered at Luis's back in silence, questioning the young prodigy before him. How could a mere child accomplish this? Doubts swirled around his mind. But now, Chugan felt an even deeper wave of horror wash over him as the echoes of a monster's footsteps grew louder. It was closing in on the team, as if on a mission to hunt them down. The beast was fumbling about. With its sharp sense of smell, it sniffed the air in search of its next meal, scanning the area to locate them. Chugan's expression darkened instantly. Stunned by the sight, he exclaimed, "In my entire life, I'd never encountered a saber-toothed tiger or an emperor centipede. Not for centuries. What on earth is happening here?" Chugan found himself completely bewildered. His thoughts became fixated on these mythical beasts as he tried to make sense of it all. Wait a second. Could the dragon reside on Mount Cathia? Chugan's gaze shifted to the hissing emperor centipede before him, and the realization dawned. Is it that emperor centipede once again? Chugan sunk into deep reflection, momentarily feeling a wave of disappointment. If that's the case, then there's no sign of a dragon at all. Shoving away that despair, he quickly turned his attention back to Luis. The boy stood firm, maintaining the formation, his features drawn tight in concentration. Chugan mused. He sensed Thesa's presence quicker than anyone else. This kid could wield his magic with remarkable finesse in an instant. After a second look at the formation, Chugan's heart swelled with skeptical questions regarding Luis. Who in the world is this kid to wield such extraordinary power? As he watched Luis enhance the protective circle, Chugan was filled with both suspicion and admiration. No. Can the term genius even capture this level of talent? Suddenly, a thought sprang up that shifted his pondering expression to one of astonishment. Could this child be? Before he could piece it together, the Emperor Centipede's growl shattered the team's composure. Sending everyone into a frenzy, the beast began to rampage, frustrated from the lack of results in its search. The Emperor Centipede roared in fury, leaving Luis in a precarious situation, desperately unsure of his next move. Curses! Why did the Emperor Centipede have to show up here? He shot a glance toward his collar, where Phi was frantically trying to devise a plan alongside his master. Phi, got any bright ideas for tackling that Emperor Centipede? Phi answered with concern in his voice. To you. This beast is a magical creature formed from the very blood of the demon dragon. Beggy. Even just a fraction of it contains dragon blood, making it far from easy to escape. Phi relayed the information while the Emperor Centipede continued its fumbling search for the team. Luis looked troubled, his mind racing after absorbing Phi's words. Moreover, if we are to confront it, we'd need at least 2 or 3 level 1 powerhouses. If this keeps up, we're done for. It's steadily closing in, following its nose to zero in on our scent. Meanwhile, Luis found himself relying on both his smarts and his muscles. It was said to be buried deep within the forest. So, why did it make its way all the way down here? It appeared to be on a quest for something. Luis glanced at Nabi, the little white tiger trembling in fear. Could it be in search of this tiger? It seemed to catch a scent and suddenly veered to the left. It took off straight toward the mountains. Luis let out a breath of relief as he observed its departure, thinking to himself, thank goodness. It seems to have given up and headed back. Suddenly, from above, a flash of light, almost like lightning, appeared out of nowhere. Luis's eyes widened in astonishment as he gazed skyward. Could it really be? A lightning bolt split the serene silence, descending right down. That bolt struck the beast barreling toward the forest, prompting a cry of agony, not to be forgotten. The lightning also hit the magical barrier, protecting the entire team at the same time. Luis quickly raised his hand to strengthen the shield and let out a grunt. Ugh. The lightning bolt slammed into the barrier head-on, and Luis now strained to hold it steady. The magic bracelet on his arm finally flickered to life, glowing brightly as it absorbed the electrical energy from the lightning. Luis felt a wave of relief, exhaling as the leftover electricity from the bolt sizzled around him. But where did that come from? The beast now loomed right before the team, its fierce glare making it seem like it wanted to swallow them whole, startling even Luis. He was speechless, unsure how to respond to the chaos, managing only a wry smile. The divine barrier had been shattered. There was nothing left we could do. 5 people and 1 creature sprinted away, shrieking. Behind them, the beast roared as it lunged after them. Hey! Hey! The twins, with tears in their eyes, ran like the wind, shouting for help. Luis heard them, but couldn't care less, yelling back in irritation. Shut up and run, Khan shouted loudly. Luis, it's right on our tails, he added. I'm terrified, Balo urged Chugan to speed up since he was lagging behind the group. Huh? Move it, just before the monster caught up. Chugan had a peculiar thought while sprinting. How are those kids moving so fast? He glanced at the older kids ahead of him, suspicion swelling in his chest. As I suspected, they're not just ordinary folks. From behind, Chugan swiftly turned his head when he heard someone shout. Watch out, the Rex's jaws were just behind him, gaping wide like it aimed to engulf the nearest person completely. Chugan had no choice, quickly stammering as he raised a hand to his lips to whistle and cast a spell. Come to me from afar. The call of a bird startled the creature, making it pivot toward the sound. A massive bird swooped in, its fierce demeanor evident as it stretched out its claws and let out a piercing cry. Cree! It zipped past the monster's head, slashing the Rex's face and causing blood to splatter. The beast howled in pain. Huh. Luis, who was sprinting, felt a surge of joy, thinking to himself, awesome. At this pace, I'll have some time. Finn also popped out from Luis's collar, quickly giving directions. The Rex's legs aren't very nimble, distracted, and dashed toward the thick trees. Luis tuned into Finn, quickly alerting the panicking group. Hurry. Run towards the mountain. The entire crew kicked into high gear, sprinting towards the snowy peak. Mingu relentlessly pounded on the wreck, which sighed in exasperation. Its eyes blazed with fury, lock-targeting Luisa's fleeing crew. The wreck roared with magical might, blasting a yellow light that engulfed the entire area. Oh no, that colossal bird! Mingyu was struck by that magic explosion and let out a pained cry. Cree! Unable to sustain its flight, it plummeted from the skies as Chugan watched in horror. Chugan's expression darkened as he turned to Mingyu, yelling desperately. No. This can't be true. He deserted the team charging toward the mountain. Bala was caught off guard, unable to prevent Chugan from darting toward the wreck. Mingyu! He screamed. Luis shot Chugan an annoyed glare, thinking, forget that green chain serum, it's useless compared to what you're chasing over there with that fragile frame. Luis gazed at the mountain, lost in thought. If I keep ascending the mountain, I stand a chance at survival. But then, a shadow loomed over his thoughts, darkening his mind. Frustrated, he turned back, silently cursing Zugan. Damn it! Luis sprinted after Zugan, who dashed toward the thick forest, thinking, if we make it out alive, you'll pay for this. The twins with the backpack spotted Luis following Juan and shouted in surprise. Young Master Luis, wait for us. Without a moment's hesitation, the 3 of them raced after Juan and Luis, leaving Nabi behind, quivering and unsure of her next move. She looked forlornly at the forest, then back to Luis's group, hesitating. With a reluctant cry of discontent, Nabi chased after them, letting out a disgruntled squeal. Jugan had reached the mighty bird, calling out anxiously. Mingyu, please wake up. Mingu was hurt, quivering and whimpering weakly. Cheer. Chirp, refusing to let go. It sank its teeth into the majestic bird's neck in revenge, causing it to howl in distress. Observing this, Juan grew increasingly furious, hurling curses while unleashing magic from both hands. You filthy stone pet! He focused his spell and aimed it at the creature, clamping down on his Mingu. A surge of magic shot outward, a bright purple beam striking the unsuspecting Thek. A patch of Thek's shoulder scorched, irritating it slightly. Its eyes widened, pupils narrowing, as if pinpointing its quarry. Locking in on one target, it violently whipped its long, massive tail to the side, bellowing, growl. Before Juan could even grasp the situation, he screamed, his face frozen in terror. Ah! The furious tail lashed out from the side as it roared in wrath. Grr! Juan felt sheer fright. Everything transpired so quickly that he couldn't react. All he could do was instinctively raise his hands. A small hand snatched the hood of Juan's cloak, yanking him back. It was Luis, pulling him swiftly, his face displaying clear irritation as he shouted, Dodge! You fool! Just as Luis yanked Juan away, the beast's tail whooshed past, creating a rushing sound. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Luis quickly began to weave a spell. His hands conjured a purple area of crystalline spatial energy, instantly transforming that crystal mass into a cluster of sharp stakes hovering like energy bullets between his palms. The condensed crystal surged forward. Responding to Luis' command, he shot that magic bullet at the creature, transforming the space around them into a vibrant purple haze. Luis' strike hit the side of its neck, provoking an immediate cry of pain that echoed through the area. Jugan seized the perfect moment, rushing over to the great bird, writhing in agony on the snow, desperately attempting to soothe it. Mingyu, wake up! The bird suddenly regained its composure and viciously clamped down on the crystal Louis had conjured, crushing it effortlessly with its powerful jaws. Louis' jaw dropped in disbelief at the incredible sight. No way. Can you believe it? It just shattered a divine spell with its teeth. Determined not to back down, Louis spread his arms wide, intent on forming a new spell. If that was the case, a sonic wave swept over the creature, wrapping its entire body. It was Louis' specialized spell, a divine will conversion technique. Ancient runes encircled its head, leaving it dazed and crying out in confusion. Louis grinned triumphantly, seeing it under his control, his hands firmly sustaining the spell formation. Yes, I've got it contained. Just hold steady. However, the creature was far from defeated. The instant it was bound, it obliterated the intricate spell formation Louis had painstakingly woven, unleashing a thunderous roar. Shifting from one shock to the next as Deck obliterated the magic circle. No way. Is divine will magic totally useless? Fen popped out from Louis' collar, quickly clarifying that the beast knew only hunger and carnage. There's no chance divine will could tame it. Louis, flustered and at his wit's end, exclaimed, "Man, just how dense can it be?" Deck shifted its focus, turning toward Louis, opening its massive jaws and charging like a bullet. The twins rushed to provide support. Stepping in front of Louis with swords drawn, both charged forward, slashing at Deck's imposing form. Khan exclaimed, "Wow, it's like solid rock." Kanye, gripping his twin swords, felt tears gathering in his eyes. My hands are killing me." While Deck remained uninjured on the outside, the twins' magic enveloped it, causing it to cry out and whimper in distress. Louis suddenly recognized the monster's suffering. What? The twins' strikes on its head were hitting home. A voice came from behind the twins, prompting them to turn. Louis directed, "Chan. Connie. Strike again." Louis pointed to the creature's head. "Its weak spot is its head. Keep hammering its head." Energized by this, the twins felt a surge of adrenaline. Their weapons were summoned anew. "We're on it. Let's do this." Khan and Connie, executing a synchronized sword strike, assaulted Deck's head, causing it to emit a pained cry. "Ka!" Louis cheered with excitement. "Excellent. It's losing stamina." Louis flashed a devilish grin, channeling divine magic with both hands. "Looks like I underestimated our strength. Even though we're young, we're still full-blooded dragons." While the twins kept Deck occupied, Louis gradually advanced, divine magic crackling in his hands, generating shimmering streaks of light. "Today, let's turn it into a grilled gecko." Yugen and Balo watched in wide-eyed amazement, completely entranced. "Good heavens." Jugen, even more astonished, remarked, "They're actually taking on Deck." In disbelief, eyes wide. "Good heavens." Yugen, even more astounded, exclaimed, "They're battling Deck. Who on earth are those kids?" Balo could only chuckle awkwardly to deflect the situation. "Haha, my grandkids are just a tad too lively." Chugan questioned skeptically, "Are they truly your biological grandkids?" Balo, unsure how to respond, simply replied ambiguously, "You shouldn't dig too deep, or you might get hurt." Without a moment's pause, Louis swiftly unleashed the powerful spell he had just conjured towards Deck. Together with Connie and Khan's assault, it sent the monster wailing in sheer despair. Too, it finally fell, crying out, "Gua! UK!" Luis was obviously thrilled. "We did it. We're on the verge of catching it." Connie, wielding dual swords with Khan, couldn't hold back her tears. "Luis, I'm so exhausted. My arm feels like it's on fire. My shoulder aches too." Luis wasn't going to let up and urged the twin spirits, "Just hang on a little longer. We only need one more strike." The roar of Deck erupted again, scaring the three children. This time another Deck, now clad in brown scales, was charging towards the kids. Luis's expression darkened, unable to believe a second Deck had shown up. "We're in trouble. There's another one." The green Deck was groaning, lying there trembling. Khan asked in desperation, "Luis, what's our plan now?" Luis was out of ideas, uncertain of what to do. He could only think of one thing. There's no other option. Luis glanced toward Chugan, who was wide-eyed at the freshly arrived deck. I don't want to show him. But the only solution is to reveal my true form and whisk Balo and Jacob away. Luis instructed the twins. It's your turn now. Before he could finish, another noise filled the air. A thunderous roar erupted, shocking the three kids. A pair of powerful tigers were charging down from the mountaintop. The attention of the brown centipede shifted towards the fierce tigers. Yeah, the two white tigers lunged, biting and ripping at the centipede. The three beasts were engaged in a fierce showdown, their battle cries echoing endlessly. Roar, Nabi, with sparkling eyes, whimpered as if it recognized its parents. Chugan found himself utterly amazed again. Oh my goodness. Are there really two mighty tigers? Luis felt a wave of happiness, his heart swelling with joy. Exactly. When the kids are in peril, their parents must rise to the occasion. Khan and Connie were also thrilled to witness the scene. Ooh, look at that big kitty over there. The green centipede seemed to have regained some awareness. It shook off some of its stupor and thought about fleeing. Luis noticed and conjured chains from his hands, then triumphantly shouted, "Where do you think you're headed?" Those chains ensnared the green centipede, leaving it unable to move, only able to emit weak cries. Seeing the monster trapped before them, the three kids dashed over, eager to capture the creature. Don't let it get away. Oh ho, Luis, brimming with confidence, thought to himself, let's wrap this up. He extended his hand to cast another spell. Chains shot forth and he yelled, "Where do you think you're going?" A flurry of chains surged forward and ensnared Deck. It roared in pain. Its eyes squeezed shut. Luis, alongside Connie and Khan, charged forward. Luis yelled, "Don't let it slip away." Deck writhed in pain, unable even to scream as it was firmly bound. Luis turned and dashed back, saying, "Balo, it's your turn to make a move now." Balo immediately sprang forward, shouting, "Yes, I'm on my way." Young Master Jawan watched from a distance. As he watched everyone battling the centipede, his expression was one of pure confusion. Unable to grasp the chaos unfolding, he muttered under his breath, "Wait, young master? Just moments ago, you called me your nephew." A bone-chilling roar echoed through the woods, causing Jaon to spin around in terror. Nabi B leaped forward, bellowing fiercely. Roar! It landed on Deck, sinking its teeth into its back, making Deck yelp in shock. Nabi retaliated, leading Nabi to cry out in agony multiple times. Seizing the chance, Deck hurled Nabi B into the air. It crashed down hard, wailing in pain, its mouth bleeding, shaking uncontrollably and murmuring to itself. DZH let out an enormous roar, exuding power. Nabi's face went white, and it coughed up blood, howling in distress. DZH turned around, ready to lash out with its tail, and roared. Lying on the ground, Nabi cowered in suffering, before charging forward with a thunderous roar. Roar! Nabi braced for Deck's assault. Deck lashed its tail, making Nabi scream. Nabi slammed against a tree with a jolt of pain, clearly stunned by the intense force of impact. Spitting out blood and shrieking, the fierce tiger noticed Nabi fall, its face going pale as it crackled with rage and roared. The powerful tiger charged at the centipede, letting out a ferocious roar, sinking its jaws into Deck. Lightning surged through Deck's body as it screamed in agony. The fierce tiger maintained its tight grip, letting the electricity flow intensively through Deck, causing it to wail. The tiger's expression was filled with fury. Its teeth dug deeper into Deck. Powerful roars echoed. Deck was writhing in pain, thrashing its tail wildly from the tiger's lightning. It cried out loudly. Nabi watched in shock, eyes filled with concern, feeling a rush of gratitude for being saved. Nabi let out soft sounds from its throat. Suddenly, a loud screech erupted from behind, and the centipede tumbled to the ground, looking as though it had been scorched. Luis S., along with Canny and Khan, panted heavily. Luis S. remarked, still somewhat incredulous, "Thank goodness. It's finally over." Nabi B took a deep breath and sighed. "I'm so exhausted." Balo pointed in a specific direction, saying to Luis, "Young master, the fierce tiger is approaching." The injured tiger, adorned with bruises and cuts, slowly made its way forward. Nabi ran toward the fierce tiger, calling out. It bumped its head against the tigers after their fierce battle. Tears filled the corners of Nabi's eyes, whimpering softly. The fierce tiger glanced at Luis, its expression seemingly conveying a message. Luis wondered, could it be aware of my true identity? The fierce tiger turned to leave, prompting a startled Nabi to cry out. Racing after it and shouting at the tiger, Luis stepped in front, leaving Nabi bewildered. Luis looked at the fierce tiger, which paused and turned back, radiating a joyful and content smile. The fierce tiger leaped gracefully and bounded towards an unknown fate. Nabi, feeling sorrowful, was on the brink of tears. Phi, perched on Louisa's shoulder, remarked thoughtfully. Perhaps that tiger was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect its child. Truly. The ruler of the forest. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light erupted in the heart of the forest, startling everyone present. Phi said anxiously. That light is. Luis grasped Phi securely in his hand, then released her. As he began to depart, he asked, "Will you keep an eye on the kids?" She looked confused and asked, "What? Where are you headed?" Luis answered, "I'm just climbing the mountain and will return shortly." Phi appeared alarmed and worried, exclaiming, "But, it's so dangerous." Luis pressed onward, his expression firm, as he declared, "I'll be back in a jiffy. You don't need to fret." Phi insisted, "But yes, be extremely careful." Luis noticed something and glanced down. Nabi lay on the snowy ground, sniffing sadly as it looked up at Luis. It emitted a few little snorts. Luis turned to Nabi. "Do you want me to hop on your back?" Nabi gazed at Luis and nodded. After a moment's thought, he decided, "All right, let's roll together." Luis climbed onto Nabi's back, and they dashed through the snowy forest. Luis appeared astonished, thinking, "It's truly fast. How could the twins possibly catch it when it moves like this?" Suddenly, Nabi halted, tears brimming in its eyes as it cried out. A grim scene lay before them with deer and fierce tigers sprawled across the snowy ground, surrounded by pools of blood. Luis said worriedly, "Oh my gosh, did the tigers take all of them down?" Nabi wept desperately, rushing towards the fallen tigers, howling in grief. It approached one of the tiger bodies and inspected it. Nabi let out a heartbreaking cry, as if trying to revive the deceased tiger. Luis stood behind, feeling a heavy sorrow for Nabi. Frustration etched on his face as he clenched his fists. He felt deeply upset. He thought, "You've lost your parents too, just like I did in my past life." Luis gently placed his hand on Nabi's head, hoping to somehow ease the pain in its heart from witnessing its parents sacrifice themselves for its safety. In the snow-blanketed forest, 2 graves appeared along the path, crafted from stones. Nabi wept as it sat facing the 2 graves. Luis looked at Nabi, his expression thoughtful as he considered. So that's why the Chu clan formed a bond with the fierce tigers. He continued to ponder. Since both the deer and the fierce tigers resided on the same mountain, conflicts were bound to happen. He recalled the harrowing images of the battle between them and contemplated, even if I hadn't intervened, both sides would have ultimately been wiped out. Luis gazed at Nabi, whose eyes were still brimming with tears. He rested his chin on his hand, musing, "Looks like I've ended up taming a little orphaned tiger." He conjured a brilliant red magic, a stunning crimson glow. A faint smile appeared on his lips as he thought, "But since I'm here, I won't allow that to happen." He pointed his hand forward, releasing a burst of vibrant energy, that striking magic into Nabi. A mysterious voice echoed, "Look at me." Nabi turned in confusion and saw Luis enveloped in the shadowy, ominous form of a dragon. Nabi trembled in fear, emitting a cry that resembled a sob. Luis looked down, his face exuding a fierce aura, and said, "Don't be scared. If you trust me, I'll take you in." Luis extended his hand, gazing at Nabi, and with a warm, gentle smile, he asked, "Will you join me?" Without grasping the situation, Nabi shouted, "Yip yip," and placed its paw on Luiso's hand, barking with joy. "Yip. Yip." Luiso beamed in response. Then, a voice from behind piped up, "Master," prompting Luiso to twist around. The whole crew was closing in on him. Jaun gaped at Luiso and curiously asked, "What are you up to over there?" Jaun's tone quivered as he clearly articulated, "It merely followed your command. An ability only a high-level druid possesses." Nabi stared blankly as Jaun pressed on. "Even at your young age, you had the formidable tiger yielding without question." With everyone watching, Jaun pointed at Luiso and shouted, "So that's what this is all about?" "You truly are?" Luiso grimaced, feeling a bit annoyed. "It seems he's finally figured out who I am." The man yelled, "You're a high elf?" Luiso exclaimed in bewilderment. "Huh?" Jacon joyfully shook Luiso's hand, leaving him completely baffled. The man declared, "It's such an honor to meet a forest guardian like you. You must have cast a spell to hide your ears, right?" Luiso responded, puzzled. "Huh? No. I think you've got it all wrong." Then, like a flash of insight, a realization hit Luiso. "Wait a moment. Wouldn't this work out better?" Jaun's face shone with satisfaction. Luiso kept pondering. "If I let him maintain this misconception, my real identity will stay under wraps." Luiso cleared his throat, and assumed an air of divinity, proclaiming, "Indeed, I am the guardian of the forest." Balo scratched his head, worried. He's about to pull another trick. Jaun glanced at Luiso, feeling flustered and apologetic, saying, "Please forgive me for not realizing this sooner, and for my earlier rudeness." Luiso grinned warmly and replied, "It's all right, you didn't know, so no harm done." Behind them, Khan and Khan wore irritated expressions, teasing Luiso. Khan then remarked, "Are elves always this annoying?" Khan quickly added, "I wouldn't know. I bet Luiso has never encountered an elf in his life." Jian turned to the boy and girl, asking, "If that's the case, does that mean those two are also?" Luiso puffed out his chest, proud, and replied, "Exactly. They are the elven warriors who accompany me." Balo sighed in the background as Khan looked absolutely furious. Balo pondered, "Oh well, I'm not even going to bother. This isn't the first time. Hey, human, I need a favor from you." Luiso glanced at Nabi and continued, "Can you watch over this kid for me?" Jian responded, startled. "What, you're trusting the fierce tiger to my care?" Kay and Khan shouted in outrage, yelling at Luiso, who hurriedly covered his ears. They screamed in unison. "Absolutely not. Who said you could? Nabi is ours." Piqued, Luiso shot a pointed look in a certain direction, signaling. Balo quickly understood the hint. Balo moved behind Khan and lifted them both up. As he carried them away, they continued to thrash about in protest. Khan screamed, "No. Nabi," Khan yelled. "You're the worst." Luiso. He then turned back to Jian and inquired, "So, can you take care of Nabi?" Jian replied shyly, "Oh my, for the high elf himself to entrust this child to me." But Luiso interrupted him. Jian remarked, "My hidden dragon wishes to take it in, but our journey will be quite perilous." Nabi hung on to Luis's every word. "I'm worried this child may not handle it." Jian expressed with a worried face, "A journey that even you, Hayo, deem risky," Luis said with a grin lighting up his face. "Based on what I've seen lately, I trust you can care well for this child. I hope you can watch over this child until the day I return for it," he declared, thumping his chest, and added with excitement, "Absolutely. You can count on me. Sir, I'll love it like my own." Turning towards Nabi, he said, "Thank you. So, I'll leave this child in your hands. Now, stick close to Jian here." Nabi let out a sad whimper. Luis gently patted its head and reassured, "Right now, I can't bring you along. If you behave with Jian, I promise I'll come back for you." Nabi gazed up at Luis, crying out in disappointment, before walking toward Jian. Kneeling down, Jian looked at it fondly and said, "Your name is Nabi, isn't it? Let's be there for each other, moving forward." "Sure, Nabi." Luis smiled softly, thinking, "Well, looks like everything is arranged neatly. In the future, there won't be a chance for the powerful tiger that made a pact with me to turn against me." Luis turned to Jian and chimed, "Oh, and don't forget to give Nabi the light essence from now on." Jian, looking puzzled, asked, "The light essence?" Luis nodded with a light smile and replied, "Exactly. Someday, this child will grow, and you'll be glad you did." As the sun began to set, Jian and Nabi departed. Turning back to wave goodbye, Luis wore a satisfied smile, thinking how it was a bit of a bother, but now, everything's settled. Though I didn't got a dragon, I successfully brought a major potential threat onto my team. That's quite a catch. He then faced the sulking Khan and said, "All right, let's keep moving west." Khan huffed, ignoring him, grumbling, "Meanie." Khan fumed. Luis let Nabi go off all alone. "I'm done playing with Luis." Luis tried to lighten the mood, cheerfully holding up glimmering fruits in his grasp. "Who wants some fairy fruit?" The little girl and boy gazed at the fruit, their mouths watering. The girl shyly asked, "Are you giving us 2?" The boy, beaming, said, "I want 3. On the busy road, throngs of people bustled around. Luis helplessly looked at Khan, who clung to his shoulders. The girl and boy looked around, squealing in excitement. "Wow," one voice chimed. "We finally made it." The quaint-looking port city of Lucan came into view. Khan's eyes sparkled with thrill. The boy shouted, "Luis, there are so many people here." Meanwhile, Khan pointed excitedly and exclaimed, "Look, there are demi-humans." 2. "I've never seen a demi-human before." Phi soared up and said cheerfully, "This place is totally different from the villages we've been to, right? Lucan is home to so many different folks. Being a port city, ships carrying goods are always arriving and departing for trade between the autumn and frost continents. Countless people come through this city each year." Luis raised his hand, pushed back the curtain, and peered outside, his expression curious as he thought, "We've finally arrived. It took me 6 long months to trek from Mount Cat's Mo to Luke Thon." Luis leaned tiredly against the carriage, lost in thought. "All right, I've tackled a quarter of the journey. I just want to get home already." Suddenly, Kay and Khan embraced Luis, their eyes shimmering like twinkling stars in the mysterious, dark sky. He was left utterly speechless. The boy pointed ahead, saying, "Luis, take a look over there." The little girl eagerly chimed in. So many new things to see. At this, Luis S. felt nothing but frustration and helplessness. He angrily wriggled to break free, shouting, "I've told you not to cling to me." Scram. "You too." Ka and Khan burst into laughter. "Haha. Luis S. is mad." Balo turned around and said, "Young Master Luis S. We've arrived." Luis S., surprised, shoved K and Khan aside, asking, "Oh, really?" He slowly stepped out of the carriage. Luis S. looked up and around. Standing before the Zun Inn, Luis stared at the sign for what felt like an eternity. Then he turned to Balo. "Is this the place you were talking about? This rickety inn? You said this was it? This worn-out joint?" He scratched his head awkwardly. "I haven't been here in 10 years. Let's just head inside and see what's what." The door swung open instantly. A charming girl with orange hair, carrying water, turned with a bright smile. "Welcome, esteemed guests. The Zigjun Inn is thrilled to have you." She cheerfully repeated, "Welcome, esteemed guests. The Zijun Inn is here to serve you well." Mona approached Balo and asked with a grin, "Would you like to reserve a room or grab a bite?" "Sir?" He turned his head to glance behind him, replying, I'd like to reserve a room first." "Book a room?" Mona said, raising an eyebrow. "Huh?" As if struggling to believe her eyes, she pointed at him and exclaimed, "Are you Uncle Balo?" "Balo?" he said, astonished. "Yes. How do you know me?" With a smile, she pointed to herself, saying, "It's me, I'm Mona. Don't tell me you've forgotten." "Uncle." Balo was taken aback, responding in surprise. "Mona? Are you really that little bean Mona?" Mona proudly thumped her chest. "That's me. I'm now 24 years old." She turned and called toward the back kitchen. "Lucia, hurry out here and see who's visiting." A girl with reddish-brown hair peeked through the curtain, asking, "Who's here causing all this commotion?" "Sis?" Lucia was stunned upon seeing him, exclaiming, "Oh my gosh, is that Uncle Balo?" He burst into hearty laughter, then began to shower her with compliments. "Haha, Lucia, you've blossomed into such a beauty. You're ready to tie the knot." Hearing this, Mona interjected with a twinge of jealousy. "What about me?" He quickly praised her as well. "Our Mona is looking quite stunning too." Meanwhile, as Balo chatted with the two girls, Luis S. thought to himself, he truly is a frequent visitor. Girls. Luis S. mused. He really is a staple around here. Balo placed his hands on his hips, scanning the area, and asked, "But where are Heyman and Julia? Did they head to the market?" Upon hearing this, the girls' faces turned somber. Lucia replied, "Our parents passed away 3 years ago." 3 years ago, Mona added, her voice heavy with sorrow. "They were struck by a horse-drawn carriage." Balo was taken aback and repeated, "What did you just say?" Hman and Julia were both present. He rubbed his forehead, feeling guilty. "I'm really sorry. I came back too late." Lucia quickly apologized. "No, Uncle. Please don't be that way." Mona chimed in. "Look, Uncle, Lucia and I have inherited this inn, and we're doing just fine." With a sad smile, Balo rested his hands on the shoulders of the two sniffling girls in front of him and said gently, "Indeed, you both have faced so much." When Lucia glanced and noticed the 3 kids standing there, she questioned him skeptically. "But who are these kids? They're not your own, right?" Balo scratched his head awkwardly and replied, "We don't look alike at all. They might as well be my kids." Lucia stared at him in disbelief and exclaimed, "What? They don't resemble you one bit." "Uncle." Mona was puzzled, her expression a bit critical as she commented, "What on earth? Do you even have a conscience?" "Uncle?" Balo, feigning sadness, explained, "These are my nieces and nephews." The 2 girls examined him closely with scrutinizing gazes. Lucia remarked, "That's even more bizarre." Meanwhile, Mona expressed doubtfully, for such beautiful kids to actually be related to him. Balo began to panic, sweating as he stuttered, "We're, very distant relatives." Mona strolled over and settled down to watch Sai and Khan. Wow, the little girl and boy had bright smiles and eyes as clear as the endless blue sky. Both kids had a lively and warm aura about them. Looking closely, it was like an arrow of affection had struck her heart, and her eyes sparkled with love. Mona dashed over to hug the adorable little girl and boy before her, exclaiming, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You're all just too cute." Khan chuckled. The one being hugged piped up, "I'm stuffy." Louis' expression darkened as he said with annoyance and jealousy, "Try raising them, and you might change your mind." Meanwhile, Lucia took a seat and warmly addressed Luis. "Hey there, I'm Luca. Are you feeling hungry?" Luis shyly looked away and murmured, I'm a bit hungry. Upon hearing that, the two girls darted into the kitchen. Mona proclaimed, You're hungry? Let me whip up a tasty meal for you. Lucia, do we still have the meat we bought earlier? Lucia quickly responded, Yes. I'll get the ingredients ready. He watched them helplessly, unsure of what to say. Ballo gazed curiously toward the source of the sigh. Sigh? Luis stretched out his hands. At a loss for words, Ballo looked confusedly towards the source of the sigh. Sigh? Luis extended his hands, gave a little shrug, and sighed. Being this adored can be quite tiring. Ballo looked at him, utterly speechless. In the room, the lights illuminated the entire area, and a fireplace in the center enhanced the cozy and inviting atmosphere. After the meal, Luis retreated to his room and collapsed under the bed, saying, It's been ages since I've eaten this well. He then propped himself up on his hands and asked Ballo, Oh, by the way, I couldn't ask earlier, but how are you related to those two sisters? You all seem pretty tight. Upon hearing the question, he turned his head and replied, Their parents and I were friends who shared both life and death experiences. Luis looked doubtful and asked, Life and death friends? You mean like mercenaries? Ballo beamed at him and answered. Luis inquired with doubt, Life and death, friends? You mean mercenaries? Ballo grinned brightly at him and replied, Yes, indeed, they had an incredible sense of humor, always sharing laughs. One day, they brought Mona to raise their child.